So that's it, folks. That was SCOMathon 2023. There's a few bits and pieces just to highlight. There's the obvious bits and pieces to highlight, which are, I mean, obviously, we had some awesome content. We had 3 keynotes. We had 3 panel discussions. We had 5 vendor talks, and we had 8 sessions. But you knew that from the outset. What did you not know from the beginning? Well, right at the beginning, I was asked by Tim Critchley, compare for the first half of the show how many MVPs there were. And so I thought I'd count up in the 12 hours I've had since he last asked. And it turns out there were 4, so 4 MVPs. We also had 2 Microsoft staff. We also had 5 SQUPers. So there's some interesting stats for you. Moving on, I couldn't get through a lock note without making a bit of a mention to SCOMAthon, which was our little LinkedIn issue, essentially. Obviously, we are sorry. Clearly, you did notice it. But I would like to say thank you to Bob for staying calm under pressure and continuing to deliver an awesome keynote all the same. Thank you very much. And sorry, it will never happen again. I can almost promise it. If those of you remember the Cloudflare issue, you know I can't keep that kind of promise. But moving on swiftly to some of my highlights from this SCOMathon. Obviously, the sessions were fantastic. And they came in all shapes and sizes this year, that is for sure. The first one I'd like to mention is the SCOM product teams one for all the cool new stuff they're working on. So Azure Arc awareness, essentially, and ARM awareness for Arc as well. And really, really important, in my view, is the Azure Monitor integration for SCOM MI. Some really cool new announcements. If you missed that session, do go and check it out. Some juicy, cool stuff in there. And then we have Richard Benwell's session, which was the SquaredUp vendor session. Now, usually a vendor session is, a bit sales pitchy, but I found this particular graphic to be very, very interesting and very cool, because essentially Rich showed what has happened in the time between SCOM 2012 being released in the world of tech, as shown by Google Trends. So clearly, on the far left-hand side, your classic infrastructure technologies declining and being replaced by cloudy things. We've been hearing about it ever since, and it clearly is a trend that's happening in the industry. You can tell when large enterprises start to do things, it's no longer a trend that's happening, it's a thing that is happened. So that's really interesting, and seeing how that has affected and will affect SCOM and the future of the roadmap from the SCOM product team. Then we have Bob's session, one of 2 sessions. Obviously, Bob, you did the keynote as well. You'll have to, as you say in the comments, you'll have to take a keynote on another time as well. I'd be very happy to have you back for another one. Always good to have you. Your session was really interesting because you talked about all the different variables there are when it comes to the licensing and therefore the cost of SCOM MI. And essentially, there are lots of variables. I didn't get a screenshot of the complete list, but again, everything was recorded, so you can go and find the answers yourselves, dear listener. But there was there are plenty of variables because unlike with conventional on-prem infrastructure, it's meter billing for the most part. And there's one big variable in there, which is the system center licensing itself, which we're all very keen on finding out from the SCOM product team at some point soon. Then we had Stoyan's session, which I said I was looking forward to seeing at the beginning because of the real world use cases. How has he used PowerShell with his customers over the past year? And there were some really cool use cases in there. CLR monitoring, user session monitoring, share availability monitoring, user password exploration monitoring, which he did blog about. I remember talking about that at HackerSCOM. And file and folder timestamp monitoring, all possible with PowerShell, which is much more user-friendly than XML, apart from to the seasoned pro, like Mike from our last session there, clearly knows his stuff. Then also going back to vendor sessions, there are 2 vendor sessions that surprised me a little bit. As I say, vendor sessions typically, are designed just to showcase software. Not the case with these 2. They did showcase software, but that's not all they did. There were some cool concepts in there. So Christian showed the actual cost of running his SCOM MI public preview deployment, which looks to be 619.5 euros a month. and that's excluding the cost of the SCOM MI license itself, because that's still an unknown factor, which is really, really interesting, because at the moment it's a bit nebulous and a bit of a question mark. That was concrete data, which is good. There was some really good sort of like tricks and tips for things that could catch you out in the setup, which were definitely worth seeing if you're considering giving it a go. As reflected by Bob at the time, literally follow the instructions step by step exactly. It's still beta at the end of the day, which is fair enough. And then Marine's session from Gripmatics, obviously. This screenshot is too small to be able to read it. But essentially, this is enriching the alert history with cool data from ChatGPT to help you speed up incident resolution. They do obviously have a paid-for version, but they do have a free version as well. And a really cool application of generative AI, ChatGPT, in SCOM. And I look forward to seeing much more of it in the future. And I'm sure there will be more of it in the future if our panel discussions, which is my next highlight, are anything to go by. Our panel discussions were absolutely fabulous this year, as they are every year. Some great people and some great conversations. So here's a screenshot of each of our panels. And clearly it landed with the audience as well, because every single one was littered with comments and engagement from you guys, the audience, which is fantastic. Exactly the way I feel it should be. I'm not going to read these out. You can see them yourselves. They're all in LinkedIn at the end of the day, so you can go back and see them over time. But really, this leads on to one really important point, which is whose session was the most attended. And I can reveal to you the number one session for SCOMathon 2023 was this one, which was the SCOM product teams one, hybrid monitoring with SCOM MI and visualizing with SquaredUp dashboards. 154 attendees for gold, first place. Then we had Richard Benwell's session with Is SCOM Struggling for Survival in the Cloud Era? And here's how to save it with 150, only 4 behind Rich. Next year, maybe you can catch up there to Anchor. And then finally, but by no means least, we had Dieter Wickman's session, which was top 10 mistakes while implementing SCOM with 141 attendees. Really great sessions. But the real highlight for me, aside from the sessions and the panels and all the cool stuff we've seen, is you guys, the SCOM community. Without the community, we wouldn't be doing SCOMathon at the end of the day. And I absolutely love you guys for it. Right from the get-go, we had strong engagement and excitement with lots and lots of hellos from everybody, and excitement to be here and to have SCOMathon again. Then we had the classic kind of like war stories of people's monitoring experiences from Marine, who said, one guy said they didn't even need monitoring, and then they would call you anyway when they had an issue. The joys of phone call-based monitoring. Then another classic from Michael Ford, who was surprisingly still awake. Who says SCOM with too few alerts, management say why are we paying for SCOM, and with too many alerts, management ask why are we paying for SCOM, and trying to work out what the Goldilocks zone is. I've heard things like these so many times. Classic community comments, which is great. And a comment from Jan right at the beginning. My phone will be broken on the 1st of July when the new iPhone comes out. Speaking of users and user support, what fun. And Michael from Edgemo, this was, I think, in the Microsoft Monitoring Futures panel discussion, this one, which is really speaks to the heart of community. Every time I think of something that Microsoft could do better with SCOM, there's already a community or third-party option out there. I'm not going to read the rest of it, but essentially what you guys contribute to both SCOMathon and to the community is what makes doing SCOMathon, for me personally, so fantastic. So just a quick shout out to our sponsors, but I'm not done, so do stay until the end. We have SquaredUp, who you will know about by now, who have a dashboard server product, which is on-prem and is best of breed for SCOM, with over 10 years worth of experience revolutionizing the SCOM experience. And as of now, 5.9's GA release is now out, which gives you the ability to pull in objects from SquaredUp Cloud. So you can see the health of everything that's in your SquaredUp Cloud deployment, which is really, really cool, because SquaredUp Cloud has over 60 plugins, integrations for all the tools under the sun, and Web API and PowerShell for where there are no integrations. Designed to give you end-to-end visibility. Fantastic tool. Obviously, I am super biased, but I love SquaredUp. I love SquaredUp Cloud the most. Do go and check it out. Then we have our t-shirt competition, which I'm sure you'll be sick to death of hearing, but you won't be when the t-shirt arrives, I promise. This is a very cool t-shirt. Go to app.squareup.com and create the coolest dashboards that you could think of that you need for your end-to-end visibility use cases, and submit it to us, and you will get a t-shirt. And the best ones get some Lego. What's not to like about that at the end of the day? Then we have Silect. Silect, you've heard from Silect a few times recently. They are known throughout the SCOM industry for making SCOM successful by making MP authoring easy with MP Studio and MP Author. And now with the new Silect Operations Portal, they're bringing SCOM to the DevOps audience to make it much more easy to control SCOM by setting overrides and what have you. Do go to silect.com/SCOMathon to go and check it out. And then we have Nice, who make more management packs than I have meals in a week. Management packs for everything from the more obvious and common technologies like Microsoft 365 to the really weird and wonderful like Domino. Very cool. And of course, custom management packs too for all of your needs. Do go to nice.de/request to go and check out everything that they do. Then we have Gripmatics. Gripmatics have been known for over the last 3-4 years maybe now for rock solid Citrix management packs to plug some of SCOM's blind spots in monitoring Citrix deployments. But as of 6 months maybe or so ago, they brought to the world SCOM AI GPT, which is essentially a ChatGPT integration, which I mentioned earlier on as one of my highlights. It's very cool. Do go and check that out at gripmatics.com. Then we have OpsLogix, world leader in business critical native management packs. And for me, as I said earlier on, the Kubernetes one really stands out for me here because it's otherwise a blind spot in what SCOM can see. And it's becoming more and more prevalent in enterprise IT, as well as the Oracle and VMware management packs, which are also awesome. And then I said at the beginning that we were going to be giving money to Girls Who Code. If you haven't figured it out by now, they're an international not-profit organization working to close the gender gap in technology by teaching girls computer science. Now, look around you when you go to work, those of you who work in tech, which I'm guessing is a lot of you, and note the lack of people who aren't blokes, essentially. This is clearly an important cause. The diversity that's brought to the table through having girls and people of different backgrounds, frankly, is not to be underestimated. So in my mind, a very worthy cause. And we were donating $2 per attendee per session to Girls Who Code. So let's see how we've done now. We're at the end, essentially. So we had some donations from vendors. We had Nice, who donated $500. Thank you to you, Nice, very generous donation. We had Silex also donating $500. They were going to donate $2 per attendee for both of their sessions, which went to $500, which was their cap. So there we are. And finally, we have the SCOMathon event itself, which has donated a whopping $4,566, which means that our grand total is $5,566, which is a lot, absolute shed load of cash for Girls Who Code, which is fantastic news for them. And you should all be very proud of your contribution involved in this. So only 2 things left to do. We've got my unofficial Cloud Love Award, and obviously endorsed by nobody but myself. And the winner of this award gets nothing but my undying love and devotion. And it would be silly of me to give this award to anyone else but Michael Ford. Michael Ford, I don't know what time it is there. If you're still there, I'd be very surprised if you're still conscious, but you are in Australia from memory, or is it New Zealand? Oh, I don't want to get those two mixed up. But basically, I believe it's 6 a.m. there from you, from the last screen grab of comments there. And this is your 4th SCOMathon of doing this. So you get my respect for that. My hat goes off to you, and you get my unofficial reward, which has no monetary value at all. So all that's left to say is thank you very much, everybody who partook in SCOMathon, whether you were attendee or a speaker or a vendor. We do this because of you. Australia, I see Michael Ford, your comment there. We do this because of you. If you want to hear more from us, like future events and webinars, then do go to SCOMathon.com, where you can catch all of the past recordings and be the first to hear about cool events that we organize for the future. But obviously, a website doesn't give you push notifications like a social media platform, does it? So go on LinkedIn and look at our LinkedIn profile, and do follow us, and the same on Twitter, and YouTube is where all the recordings, including those you've seen today, will go. So that is all I had to say, except thank you very much once more, and until next time, thank you. Goodbye.